All right, this is Sandeep Bhandari. If I murdered that, I'm sorry. Okay, so looking at your stuff here, I think you've got a good idea of atmospheric perspective. Um, I think what struggles the most in your case is uh, the the composition. Actually, I think that is the thing that I would tell you to kind of really push the most. Um, and with your composition, the way you have it now, your composition pretty much runs like this. So your focal point is here, and everything is kind of this cross center. And the problem with that is that you want to draw the eye in there, and you're not really doing anything to keep me there. The other thing is that it's kind of symmetrical thing. It's evenly balanced. So what that means is you have a big chunk here and you have two chunks here, which is fine. And then you've got your horizon plane here, and then you've got these peak points. Oops. So you've got these peak points and you've got the horizon plane here. So it falls too much. Everything is within that grid, and everything is so evenly done. And I think that's part of the problem. Landscapes don't do that. Landscapes are, energetic and they have a little bit more feeling to this. So an example is, and I'm not gonna, I'm not really gonna paint on here too much because you've got kind of that painting going on. Um, but but what you want to do is you want to pick the feature you're most interested in and exaggerate that feature. Especially with landscapes and things like that. So I'm not going to really do too much of a paint over, but I'm going to chop it up a little bit, and I'm going to show you um, kind of where we can go with this. So in order to do that, and I'm just really quickly going to kind of chop out some of this stuff here. Okay, so we're going to cut this. Oops, it would help to be on the right layer. So I'm going to cut this out. I'm going to cut my sky out because that is, and the people there are nice touch, but I think with the reference of the person that you have in the bottom, I don't think you really need more people. So I'm going to cut that out real quick, and then we're going to, I'll just cut. Actually, let's get these out, these vines real quick here. Cut those out real quick, and then we'll go back to this. Alright, we're going to cut that out, and then let's do the foreground here, like so. And we're going to cut that out, and then I'm going to do finally the last bit here, so I'm going to just trim out, and then I'm just taking this little character with here. Alright, so by just simply cutting all of this out, we've got our individual person here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab this and I'm going to cut this on a separate layer. Okay, so I've got all these separate pieces. Now, the big thing that we are looking at is the waterfall. That is our focal point. And so we kind of want to keep that focal point going on. And so the first thing that I would say right off the bat is let's create a different compositional effect. All right, and instead of symmetrical, let's do a grid base composition. So let's or do a rule of thirds here. So we're going to grab this as rule of thirds. And then the first thing I'm going to do is select and transform this, and grabbing, come on here, there we go. So I'm grabbing this and moving it over like so. So that's the first thing that I do. And do you see how already, just by doing that, now it gives you a little bit more to play with. You know, I get a little bit more off-sense balance. I get something a little bit more interesting. You know, that is something that is much more energetic, if you will. And now it's because everything kind of radiates to this. So if you're looking at this now, and it's a simple change, but now looking at this, the guy is looking this way. This angle now comes this way and looks, and it creates a focal point. Here becomes a focal point. So everything is kind of now pushing towards that one piece. And I think that just that little bit of oomph on there makes a huge difference. And the next thing we can do is you want to use your repetitive shapes, right? And you've got repetitive shapes here, here, here. But if we grab this tree, and I'm just going to clone this tree real quick, and I'm going to just grab this tree and we're going to flip it horizontal, and maybe rotate it. Let's flip it vertical once too and see how this looks. And sorry, I took out your name there. But you can see now something as simple as that gives me a repetitive shape. And I might even take this one here and transform this a little bit more. Flip horizontal. And let's pull that one underneath. So now I've got a little bit more going on. I've got that feeling of, you know, I'm moving towards things, and then I can go here, select and transform. And this is actually in the, let's pull that sky underneath. And let's try select and transform this, and warp that just a little bit. And so what happens with that is you can see now I'm layering this effect a little bit more. I'm getting a little bit more depth in that foreground background element. And so those are things that you really want to kind of really push. Now, if this is a big river, you want to have a little bit more emphasis on the water, because I mean this is a huge waterfall now. So you know we can add in, you know, like this rushing water, and just by doing this, you know, just by defining that water like so, and I'm just going to really quickly kind of block in that element. You see how now that starts leading towards that, and then I can use this to define the landscape in front of it. And let's grab that. Oops. Oh, I actually like that. And I like this. Just going to erase a little bit of it. And I like this because now it gives me a little bit to kind of look forward to, if that makes sense. Like I've got this sense of what's coming along. We're just gonna something like that. So I'm layering this effect now, and so as you can see, it's not. I didn't do a lot to your actual painting. I did more to. Here we go. I did more to just the composition. Um, and I'm just going to merge this layer. Now, looking at this, you can see how yours really doesn't have a sense of depth. It does, but it doesn't. Like, I've got more sense of depth when I break this stuff apart and start looking at things um, as a composition instead of a landscape. Now my eye starts drawing a little bit more, and it leads into those little guys sitting on the wall. And then the other thing too is, and I'm just going to finish this up here with this, so it looks a little bit cleaner here. There we go. Okay, so you can see here with this landscape, the difference is just much more interesting. I'm more willing to go and look inside of that scene now. I'm willing to spend a little bit more time exploring what's going on here. Whereas before it was to the point, and there it was. You're done. But now with everything kind of adjusted and moved around, you're you have a little bit more sense of mystery to it. I want to look more into the scene to see what I'm seeing. Um, I would even emphasize this character a little bit because does kind of disappear into the back a little bit. So just simply grabbing this, adding a little bit of orange, and upping this, and this is gonna look ugly here, but you know, just kind of and it's not much, but it's just enough complication in there that it makes me draw the eye towards the character. All right, and so um, those types of things, and I can probably even cut back on this, but it's those little types of things like that now fit that character within that scene, and I see a little bit more of that idea flowing along, and so those are the things that you kind of want to watch. You kind of want to pay attention to um, the layout before you do the painting. All right, I hope that helps.